Well, joining us live now is the Deputy Opposition Leader Sussan Ley. Sussan, good to see you. Thanks for your time. Let's start in The Voice. Cathy Freeman, she has weighed into the debate. She's publicly acknowledged it, wants Australians to support it in a fresh ad that was issued last night. What do you make of it?
Pete, Cathy Freeman is a great Australian and she's articulated her views very strongly and very well. I'd love to see her in Parliament. I'd love to see her take that step. I don't agree with her. I don't agree with the argument for yes. But as I've said many times, it's okay to vote yes and it's okay to vote no. What's not okay is the type of disrespect and abuse that people experienced only a day or so ago in Adelaide, and the yelling at members of the No campaign as they went in to address a group, and that's not okay. The type of abuse we've been seeing is just not okay. And I just want to take every opportunity, as I know all of my colleagues do, to remind people that you can have that contest of ideas around the kitchen table, but you absolutely need to respect everyone's views in this.
Yeah, just one more on Cathy. I mean, we've seen in the past elites, actors, sporting stars, celebrities, when they get behind campaigns, it actually backfires because they're often out of touch with ordinary folks. Now, Freeman is a legend, that won't change, but is it risky here?
Well, the tactics of the Yes and the No campaign, for that matter, are up to them. Pete, I was at the Henty Machinery Field Days in my electorate yesterday, standing in 30-odd degree temperatures and hot winds and talking to farmers about their concerns about their crops and talking to local communities. And when they raised the voice, they had way more questions than answers. And they didn't understand this lack of leadership from the Prime Minister. And many people mentioned the divisive nature of the debate. Now, that is completely down to this Prime Minister, and that is the whole point here, Pete. It's risky, it's unknown, it's permanent. It's a permanent change to our Constitution, and unfortunately, it's dividing Australians, and that shouldn't be the case. OK.
Just had Graham Turner on the program, Sussan, talking about Turkish Airlines. It's getting extra flights into Australia, but Qatar isn't. We're all a bit confused by that, but what are your thoughts on that decision?
Well, certainly Senator Bridget McKenzie and the others are doing a great job with the inquiry at the moment, and they're raising far more questions than answers for this government. So it really does beg the question, what is going on here? Why was Qatar Airlines refused in the way that it was, and suddenly there's a complete about-face with another airline that arguably does not have the same claim as Qatar does. So we really do need answers from the government, and we really do need explanations. But Pete, we're on the side of consumers. We're on the side of the travelling public. We want people to be able to connect with their loved ones overseas, and we want prices for those airfares to be affordable. OK, yeah. Well,
Qantas is not falling into the same trap by rejecting Qatar this time. When it comes to Turkish Airlines, do you support extra flights from Turkish Airlines, just to be clear, coming into Australia?
We support a proper process. We support a proper process that actually puts Australians at the front and centre of what needs to be a real look at what it costs, Pete, to travel overseas. Why does it cost so much? And when you consider the views of experts, which were that had we allowed those extra 28 flights in from Qatar Airlines, we would have increased capacity, reduced cost, added to our tourism dollar, supported our local small businesses and looked after Australians who want to reconnect with family and friends overseas. I can't see what's wrong with that. OK, so back to the question. You then support Turkish Airlines getting more flight to Australia, just to be clear? I don't have all the information in front of me. I've only heard that news report today, so it's not appropriate for us to simply announce something like that on the run. But what this Senate inquiry is doing is teasing out those questions, and I know it will include those questions that you've just asked me, Pete, because what people are suspecting is a cosy relationship between this government and Qantas that has somehow misunderstood the real needs of Australians and not looked after people who are struggling right now with the cost of living and deserve to have access to cheap and available flights, affordable and available flights, particularly when travelling overseas.
Just finally, we'll wrap up on this one. This brouhaha over wind turbines in the Hunter. The Federal Energy Minister received a hostile reception from some protesters yesterday. Have the thoughts of locals been underestimated here?
Well, they've been ignored, and it was an extraordinary story on the front page of The Australian, Pete, where we had Catherine King, the Infrastructure Minister, obviously under pressure in her own electorate, calling out her cabinet colleague Chris Bowen and saying there was not enough consultation, or almost no consultation, as these high voltage transmission lines are sort of roaring through rural Victoria, and they're on their way across the Murray into my electorate, and I've actually seen for myself how dreadful it's going to look. At the same time, we've got Chris Bowen being booed in the Hunter, and people are saying, we don't want you rushing through your offshore wind turbines plan. So communities are being ignored and overlooked, and you can do this properly. We want to see a transition to renewable energy that absolutely keeps prices affordable, but listens to communities. This government does not listen to communities. That's the overwhelming impression. No wonder Chris Bowen was booed. And I would say to everyone in the Hunter region, vote out your local Labor member. They are not looking
So
after
you wouldn't have wind turbines in the ocean?
You have to be really careful, and you have to balance, obviously, the community, the environment and the need for renewable energy. If you do that well, wherever you put renewable energy, it can work. And we've seen it exactly work across many areas of Australia. So you have to listen to communities, Pete. Why would you, I tell you what we wouldn't do. We wouldn't railroad over the top of what communities want, need and deserve when it comes to a proper consultation.
Okay. Sussan Ley, we'll leave it there. Appreciate your time, though. We will talk to you again soon.